There we go. I briefly muted myself, but we're good now. Hi, welcome. Welcome to one of the first panels that we're doing. We had our creative workshop series launch earlier in this year, and now we're getting into the scholarship panel and discussing all about that. Firstly, I kind of want to start this. Yeah, firstly, I'll kind of start this off by giving a land acknowledgement because so much of our work happens in Hollywood. And although we're virtual right now and everyone's coming from so many different locations, so much of our work happens in Hollywood and in the Los Angeles area. So the Hollywood Fringe acknowledges that we are on the unceded lands of the Tongva, Quiche, Gabrielinos, and Gabrieleños. Our statement serves as a practice as we commit to furthering our connection to the Indigenous communities past, present, and emerging. Um, yeah, so welcome to this scholarship panel where we're going to be talking about applying for the scholarship, what that entails, and what the scholarship program is. We have a bunch of really exciting panelists that they'll be introducing themselves shortly. And yeah, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Roddy. I'm the Artist Services Manager here at Fringe. And my pronouns are he, him. For a visual description, I'm wearing a black turtleneck. I have very springy curly hair. I'm wearing glasses and seated at my desk. And then, oh, I wanted to share my connection actually to Fringe before I started working actually here on the admin side. I was the artist services coordinator and I was the artist services coordinator, but before that, I was a scholarship recipient as well in 2023. That's how all of this came to be. There was that extra step that, yeah, just in case you wanted to know. Um, because we're on Zoom, before I introduce our panelists, just a quick little housekeeping that Lois, one of the co-executive directors, yeah, there we go. And oh, Ellen's also here, another one of the there's only two co-executive directors. There's not, I didn't made it to sound like there's three. There's two. But Lois is moderating the chat. And yeah, everyone just a helpful, friendly reminder to be very courteous in the chat. Please ask away your questions. We want to answer them and get those questions answered. But please keep in mind, no one here is your competition. This is your community. This is who you're going to be entering into with everyone in this space into the festival. And yeah, if you'd like to learn more about our code of conduct, I believe Lois, you're going to input that link in the chat to know more about how the festival operates and what the spirit of Fringe is, and how we want to treat everyone entering the space with respect. Oh yes, if you are unable to catch this, some of you are watching this right now and taking notes. If anything goes by too fast, no worries at all. It's all going to be made available on YouTube as we're recording it, and this live stream will go there. Um, I think that's a good spot. I think without further ado, I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves. I'm gonna have to I'll name it so that we can pop everyone and just name them. But Chris, if you want to go ahead and introduce your pronouns, your visual description, tell us a little bit about your Fringe experience and what your connection has been to the scholarship program.
I would love that. And thank you so much. And you're doing a great job. You're so cute. What a pleasure it is to be with you. My name is Chris, short for Christine Farah. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a board member of the Hollywood Fringe, as well as I am one of the co-founders of the Diversity Scholarship Program, which has been incredibly rewarding. And I mean, it's been such an awesome experience for me, and I'm so thankful that I've gotten to see so many great shows happen at the Fringe. It's just the best. It's like I literally can talk about how I think this is the best program and how this is like the curated program of the Fringe, and so it's the best shows. It's like whatever I can, but I'm not supposed to say any of that, so I didn't. Okay, so other things about me is that other things about me, I'm an actor, writer, comedian. I do like pop culture commentary. That's like sort of my thing. I have a podcast where I talk about like dumb, reality shows. But at the Fringe, I started I can't remember the exact year. So it's either 2013, these are 2013 or 2014. And I did my first show, which was like a character-based show. I have a bio queen character. She's a big drag queen named Fancy. She did her first one-person show there. Then I came back the next year, which I can't remember if this is now 2014 or 15. I think it's 2014 now. And then Fancy won Best Cabaret in her second show, which was really, really awesome. And then so, I remember like 2015, there was like a show called Women that won, and they were a bunch of New York people, and they had to go back to New York, and so I got to like do the LA cast for 3 months with a bunch of Fringe people. That was like a great experience that happened. I ended up doing my own personal storytelling show at Fringe in 2023. What year are we in? No, 2022. Wait, no, 2023. I'm so sorry, my loves. What is time? Okay, so having said all that, I am like a diehard Fringe person, and I am someone who has done shows as well. So I care so much about the experience for people. I love actors and I love writers, and I know it's really scary, and I can champion the best parts of doing the Fringe, which is how many skills it gives you. But this is a lot of what I'll get into. All I have to say is that if you see me around, I really want to give as much of like my knowledge or warmth or confidence I can give to you. So don't be, feel free to hit me up in like a email situation, or if you want to DM me on Instagram at Chris Silfera. Regardless of your Fringe experience, I can like help you out if you, even if you're not even doing like a diversity thing, if you have a question or something. So um, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks. Yeah. We're gonna then pop it over to Matthew. Matthew, I'll just repeat what the things are again, because it's perfect. But it's your pronouns, a visual description, and then a little bit about your Fringe experience and your connection to the scholarship program. So yeah, take it away.
Yeah, I'm Matthew Robinson. Pronouns are he, him. I'm African American. I have dreadlocks right now. I'm wearing a black sweatshirt with the Cincinnati Bengals, so that's cool. Hooray. No, my experience with Hollywood Fringe, I'm a writer, producer, director. Been doing the Fringe since 2016. I've won several awards during that time with my own productions, including Best Comedy in 2019, and then several shows that I produced have been nominated or won awards in the recent years, like Toughest Man in Chicago. Shows that I mentored include shows like Made in America, which was an award-winning show, as well as The Allure of the Thug Life, which also ended up winning Best Musical at the Hollywood Fringe that year, and also the Ella Award. So I've worked with a lot of different people, and I've worked on a lot of different projects with scholarships and helped mentor them. Since 2017, I've been on the scholarship committee in some way or another. So always excited to be a part of this, and I just love what this represents. I love what we're able to bring to the Hollywood Fringe. I think this is what helps make the Hollywood Fringe stand out compared to a lot of other fringes around. And some of the best shows that come out any year come from the Hollywood Fringe scholarship winners. So super, super excited to help people get this out.
Awesome. And I think because both Chris and Matthew, I think you've both been mentors before, and I think that I didn't have that figured into the questions, but we'll dive into that a little bit to kind of explain like what is a scholarship mentor when you receive the scholarship. I think that would be a great thing to touch on. But for right now, we're gonna pop it over to TL. TL.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Can I just give a visual thing? I forgot to do that, TL. I'm so sorry, TL. Before just I feel bad. So if you hear this voice, no, if you want to know, this person looks like a white woman with like blonde hair, like but like tan sometimes. I'm technically Lebanese, but we'll get into that different situation, whatever. God bless. I'm in front of a couch. I'm wearing tartan. It's like a Christmas or sort of like autumn tartan. And I have like a berry lip. Thank you.
Awesome. No, you're all good. But yes, we're gonna pop it over to TL, and TL, yeah, it's a visual description, your pronouns, and then your Fringe experience with the Fringe Scholarship Program.
Mm, Thank you. Well, I'm honored to be here. My name is TL. This is my name's Candidate of Culture. just adjust so you can see me better. Okay, let's see. So my pronouns are she, her, sometimes they. So I'm still in a process with that one because I have many people in here that are all fabulous. And let's see, my scholarship or fringe or HFF experience started in 2020. I got a scholarship, but then COVID hit. And so we were kind of held in this holding pattern, waiting till the next year. So 2021, yeah, it was a beautiful experience because people decided to show up and to create theater and share it with the world, and it was positive and beautiful. I could go on about that forever. And then let's see, so I did my show, The Book That Won't Close, with Confessions of a Love Addict, about my experience in the deaf culture. And then that was awesome. I was nominated, I guess, at the top of the Fringe Festival. It won a Female Empowerment Award and a Cultural Enhancement Award. So just very exciting, but mostly it was just nice to be able to represent the deaf culture in pretty much a hearing festival. So it was just nice to have a little bit of deaf influence pop up. The next year, I was a mentor, so that was really nice to be able to support other people on the journey. Since that time, I have been on the Access Committee or the board. I've been kind of a judge. You go around and watch all the different shows. I really enjoyed that. And I've also coached or mentored several artists who have gone on to the Edinburgh Fringe in Scotland. So that's very exciting. And I'm just honored to be here. And I'm always excited about diverse stories, but mostly I just really believe in the power of the individual and the storytelling process and how it has the power and capacity to transform both the person and the audience. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you all three so much for being here and letting us have your time, and for you sharing your wealth of knowledge. Again, I started in 2023, but you guys have just built so much. You guys are just pillars of the Fringe community, and so it's very exciting to hear from all three of you. And I'm just always learning more and more bits as an artist, as an administrator, as me. But I think we're gonna kick this off with the application itself. We just opened up the application right before, or like last week, and the application will wrap itself up in the 21st of January. That's a Tuesday. But I guess the first question is, when you were filling out, for those of us that are filling out the application, how long did that process take for you? It's evolved somewhat, so these numbers or this time length may differ slightly, but I'd still love to hear from you about that.
I'll go first and say, now listen, truth be told, I've never filled out this application. Okay. But listen, I filled out applications. I'm not a crazy person. I'm going to give you my tips, and then, which is just this. Don't do it all in one sitting. Take time. And so by that, I mean, copy and paste the application into whatever comfortable program you use to write things, whether it's a notes app, honey, it's a Google Doc in your own drive, like, whatever you do, I mean, like, I feel like an old lady, so I'm like, there's like some new thing, I don't even know about it. I'm like Windows 95. No. Word. But then, like take your time going through crafting your response to each one. Don't be perfectionist about everything, but make sure you read over it in different settings and in your own different frame of minds. Make sure it makes sense to you. Have someone else read over it. I mean, I will say this, I'm someone who I think deals a lot with like ADHD tendencies and time management issues and executive functioning. And I definitely am an artist and like an actor and a writer. And so none of these things like make me feel like I'm very good at, like setting course, like efficient time management. But in this situation, really give yourself time to just read the entire thing first and mull over it. And then give yourself time to read the first question and do a free write of how you would answer it. And without the pressure of like having to get everything done. And then from those things, then you can like create and craft your application answers. Know that we want to be taken on the understanding of this, whatever your project is. And we obviously don't know you unless we do know you, but like, shh, don't tell us, ha ha ha, like wink, wink, but I'm just kidding. We have to like know what you're talking about. and we don't might not know you. And so make sure that you're clear and concise and that you're giving someone, a pitchy kind of idea of what you want to do that's enticing. And everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just add to that real quickly. Because I remember that when I was filling it out, there was a portion of time where I was taking that afternoon to fill it out, but then I ran across one of the questions. And I think its wordage has changed a little bit over the years, but its spirit is still the same about like what does the impact of the scholarship mean to you, or what does it mean going into the community as the Fringe community and like being a member of that. And I just remember like being like, okay, I've filled out what I can this afternoon, and this is a question I have to mull over more. And like it happened just passively. I was like washing dishes or gardening, and I kept thinking about that question. So the writing itself, took its time, but the thinking about those questions, I feel that, just yeah, take your time with those questions. I think like Chris has been saying. TL, I know that you were also filling out the application when you were doing your show. Is there any advice you want to give to that as well?
Well, I just want to support what you both have said, that I think it's really important to just mull it over, not to just write it out. So that means if the deadline is coming up, you don't want to put it off. You want to start the process to write it, and then, like you said, come back to it and see and look it over. I had the benefit that I had toured my show several times, so I had copies of stuff. But I noticed when I was copying and pasting, it's like, oh, I said that before. It's the same. So you want to like not be saying the same thing in all the same sections. So you really want to put some attention into it. And I would say the priority too is we want to know who you are, but we want to know why. I think that's really important. I always include that in my my marketing packages, like why this story or my brand or my message is really important for me and the audience who are going to come and see it. And because that's what helps you to stand out. And if you are also diverse in any way, I always lead with that. Deaf, disabled, boom, and be proud of it, because it's what makes me unique. So I mean, if there's something unique about you, don't be afraid to show that or emphasize that.
Absolutely. And I think TL, you're also in one fell swoop answering that second question that I was going to follow up with, which is, did you have a fully realized show when you applied? And you had said that, yeah, you've toured it around, you had a product that was ready to come into the Fringe space. But also I'll just add that not all of the applications that have been received in years prior and been presented as Hollywood Fringe scholarship shows didn't have fully completed scripts at this point in the process. I think that there's something to be said about knowing what your show's about. And that's kind of where I want to dive into with this question, which is, and Matthew, if it's okay if I start with you, one of the questions is like pitch us your show, and I wanted to kind of ask you about how do you figure out how to pitch your show, and what do you want to include when you're pitching the show?
Yeah, yeah. When you're pitching a show, first of all, whether you have it complete or not, this is a great test to know if you really know your own show and if you are comfortable and confident about what your show is. So I would say if you are feeling a little vague or listless on your pitch to us, maybe your show needs a little bit more work than you think. Um, Again, we're asking you to take a lot of time. Don't do this at the last minute. Anyone at the last minute may have trip and stumble trying to describe their show or any idea. But you do want to get this concise, and you do really want to think about, when I boil this down, what is the most interesting way I can tell someone about my show? You'll hear the phrase elevator pitch quite a bit. Um, at the Fringe, you typically get more time than you would in an elevator to pitch your show when you go something like office hours. I like to say it's the bar pitch, and that you have people talking. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of sound, and you've got to somehow cut between that. I mean, there's going to be hundreds of shows, and we're going to look at dozens upon dozens of applicants. Don't try to oversell your show, but be honest about what your show is. And the more truthful you are about what it is, what your goals are, how you think that this show works, don't try to tell us what we want to hear. Tell us what you feel like is exciting about your show, and that will create the best sort of pitch. Again, give yourself plenty of time. to have that, whether the show's finished or not. But when I'm looking at pitches, I'm looking for someone who seems passionate about their show, not just trying to get all these parameters. There are no parameters. It's just about what interests you. And if you're interested, we'll be able to feel that.
Awesome. I think that yeah, you're hitting on something that I think is even in the little descriptor of that question, which is what, the thing that excites the applicant writing the show or the applicant submitting it. What excites them is what we want to hear, because that's where you're going to hear their voice most. But also, like, you can tell when someone's super excited about what they're going to be talking about, and usually it's like, oh, the most exciting moments in their show is something that they really want to get across. And by all means, include that in the application, because that's super helpful for all of the committee members who are reviewing it to see and to fully understand. Chris, TL, did you want to add to that?
I will say, some shows write themselves with a good log line, and like listen, and when you stumble upon that, then yeah, like the idea of you being like, oh my God, I'm gonna do, let's just, I'm gonna do well, okay, this was a real show, but it wasn't diversity one. I loved the show from like Fringe. They did, the two secondary characters of Sound of Music. It's like, when Captain Von Trapp, like it's not Maria, but it's like that hot woman, that like the socialite woman, and then there's like the other guy that's around that's like trying to like trying to like get him to be the Von Trapp family singers. Like those two people are secondary characters in Sound of Music. So anyway, a whole show happened at Fringe. It was like what they're doing the entire time of the show. Now, let's just say that you had that brilliant idea. I wouldn't have had to have written all that, but I definitely know what's going to happen. At one point, she's going to realize that he's in love with Maria. She's going to have to, like that's a brilliant show. And so you would have been able to just, pitch it in a way where you wouldn't have had to write it already. Now, I just told you I also did like my own one-person show. I could never have just pitched to write my one-person show. Hopefully it'll be done by the time Fringe happens. Like I would have like lost my mind. I don't know the end, like first of all, I'm not dead yet. Who knows what the end of my life is? All I'm trying to say is that like some things need a lot of time and you to feel good about the structure, the beginning, the middle, the end, at least you have an semblance of the end, and some things you are just struck by, I think, a gift from the theater god. You're like, or, we're going to do Chekhov's Three Sisters, or we're all living in a Silver Lake bungalow, I don't know. And you just, anyway, so that's really on you. And also, I would say the last thing to like to toggle in your mind is how strong you feel in your own experience doing that. If you haven't done so much theater, you haven't produced so much, and like, I probably would like get the entire script together. That's, you got to kind of know yourself. TL, do you have anything to add?
I mean, this is great. I think the idea of the elevator pitch is really like, you just want to be short and kind of sweet and get to like what makes you unique or why you're passionate about your story. But it's also good to use the application to help you whittle it down. Like I encourage my clients to go and apply for these things, whether they're diverse or not, because the application, I'm sorry, you guys are like, no, no, no. But honestly, it's a good process to go through that experience because it will show you where you're at in relationship to your script, your ownership of your story, your development process. And it's a great practice. It's a great tool to really help you whittle down what is the point of your show and what is the magic that you're bringing. You don't have to have it all worked out perfectly, so you can use the whole experience to help you find it along the way. Say yes, show up, start writing, and see what pops up for you, and I'm sure something amazing will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and TL, you're kind of touching on this thing where, what is the point of your show? What is the thing about your show that you're trying to present? And it kind of leads into another question in the application, kind of centered around impact. And I think those two correlate very nicely, which is, how do you address impact when answering this application question? That's like the grander question. The more specific one I really want to get into, though, is why is it important to you what the audience takes away from your production? I think that is a easier way of how to tackle impact, unless you want to tackle it in whichever way you want. But that might be a good like starting point for this next conversation. If you want to take the reins on it, Yeah, go for it.
Me?
Yeah, you want.
I'm not going to sign for it. I'm just going to talk so I can just like move faster. This is what it's the beauty of being fluid. So yeah, I mean, I was really intentional about my show. So previously in the deaf culture, I had about 12 years where all my show was signing with my voice off. But when I wrote my show, the first thought I had was like, oh dear God, like I'm gonna have to sign the entire thing. And it's gonna be difficult for me on some level. And then I thought if I use my speaking voice like I am right now, deaf people might kill me. Like, right? Like it was culturally not appropriate. And then I was like, wait a minute. I mean, isn't art designed to actually be that uncomfortable? So I wrote in the program, I'm consciously doing this show after 12 years of touring my music career and using my speaking voice, knowing that it's controversial and inviting the deaf culture to look at the discrimination against more minority types of individuals. So I was like, I just used it. I got really excited about the things that, you know, I basically looked at what was impacting me, my deepest, darkest shame, which is in my script and which is where the power is, and then turned it on them and said, you know, this is for all of us to look at, you know, how we treat each other and how we see each other and the biases we carry. So I was very intentional about it, but I'm very passionate about it. But someone might not have all of those political agendas or, you know, activism written into their show, but all stories are universal and they create impact, right? So sometimes, a lot of times I think people don't realize it until they get up there and they start telling their show, especially in the genre solo shows. It's not, you're not putting on a character, you're like stripping off in a way your layers and being more and more revealing. And there's something really powerful about that. And I see people figure that out while they're doing their own story, like 8, 9 times in. It's like, oh, I just learned this about myself. And it's like, that's the beauty of art, is that it can impact us, but then also impact the audience. So the whole thing is, I'm getting a little woo-woo, but not really. It's just kind of how it goes, isn't it? But it's good to articulate that and to put some thought into uh, what am I contributing, especially in a time right now where as a collective, we don't listen to each other. There's so many binary voices of you're not this enough, you're not that, I'm not deaf enough, I'm not queer enough, I'm all the, you know, all the things. Well, now more than ever, we need to be telling our stories and listening to each other, right? So, you know, put some thought into that, because if you're writing a story, you have something that needs to be heard for other people as well.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about that because I oh my God, you were saying so much that I really resonated with. I do want to get to Chris and Matthew, so I don't want to derail us. But I'll save it for my little segue. I'll figure that out to get to the next question. But Chris and Matthew, please, if you have anything you want to add to that, please, by all means, go for it. Oh, Matthew.
I don't have really much to add to that. I mean, I think you did a great job. I mean, impact, obviously, it's going to be very personal what your impact is to do. Did I, oh, did I
No,
cut
you're
out?
good. You're good. You're here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be personal for every show, for every person that is creating something, where they want to take it, how they want it to be interpreted. I've worked with a lot of different projects that had very different challenges. I had one project that dealt with abuse, but it also had a lot of comedy in it. And she was very worried that it was going to be off to have that in her show. But it was authentic to her life and to her attitude, and people really connected with it. And I've worked with other shows where they wanted things to be a little bit more toned down, stripped down. They really wanted people to feel what was happening. You've got to know yourself and know what you want your audience to be. And if you do that and you communicate that throughout, you will find the people. The Fringe has a lot of different people with a lot of different tastes. I think TL said it right. Sometimes it's a good time to challenge somebody. I'm not someone who believes that art isn't political. I think all art is inherently political in some way or another. Maybe not so much in black and white or red, blue, but it has something to say. So just be mindful of that, but don't don't feel the need to censor yourself necessarily, but do understand who you're trying to reach with it. And I think that's going to be, you'll find success if you keep that in mind. You keep that at the forefront of your goals. Hope that gives us the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it's pretty much a TL said, which is basically TL said, like she wants to like say why. But to me, like this question speaks to the why of why you're doing it. Like, what do you want from us? You know, like as well as it's like I think also subtly like a theater artist question. It's a way. There's a couple of questions that I feel like speaks to your point of view as a theater artist that we get to ask because we made this application. And so and we kind of want to know like who we're going to give the scholarship to. And so your words matter and what you want matters and what your heightened dreams, you know, what you're looking for matters. You know, just and that's a question that we wouldn't get if we just asked you like tell us about the project. So it's a sneaky way of getting us for us to get to know you and judge you kindly.
Yeah, kindly. I mean, you're brought in as community members to judge the applications, but yeah, I think a lot of these questions kind of are doing double duty because the application it's a solid application, but it's not 5 pages or 7 pages. It's got some really core questions to it that I think, Chris, you're also, yeah, just hitting it on the nail. I didn't even realize this, and I'm just reflecting on how I answered the questions, but they do double duty. It is a revelation. You're revealing as the applicant a little bit about yourself for the committee members to know more about you. And then also I think that there's something to be said when addressing impact about NTL. You really, oh God, I resonated with it so much that the like the not blank enough question that often, so you ask yourself, I ask myself all the time, like, oh, and especially while filling out this application in 2023, and I was bringing in a Latinx show. Um, I when I was bringing a Latinx show, I was playing with 2 languages there as well, and very concerned about how that would be received, how that would work, but then also realizing that, oh, this is something that I don't get to see a lot in theater, and I'm very grateful to live in Los Angeles where I see theater that kind of challenges some form of status quo. But also like there's just an impact on, oh, I am going to be taking space in the space that traditionally hasn't made space. And I think that shouldn't be disregarded either. And you just made me think about that while you're talking about not being X, Y, and Z enough, not being blank enough. And I just want to thank you for that. I hadn't thought about that in a hot minute, and oh God, I just thought about it a lot. It made me feel great because it's like the journey. You're reflecting on where you've come. But oops. But that's me talking about the artist side in the application. I'm gonna pivot it and talk about someone on the scholarship committee, which we have some folks, some friends that have who are on this panel, been on the committee. Um, you've all kind of been talking about it, so really maybe this is just like a closing thought to this question. But what do you keep in mind? Like, what's maybe like what is the thing in the forefront of your mind when reviewing the scholarship? And you may have already touched on it, so maybe this is the last chance to like emphasize it before we kind of pivot to receiving the scholarship.
I'm gonna say specificity. Sorry, Matt. It was like, okay, we're all gonna answer this anyway. So, I would say specificity, nuanced specificity, where I get a certain elated joy at the idea of seeing you live your best life doing this. You know, and so that's like a very, it feels vague to say that, but there's so many ways that could happen. You know, it's just a well-written paragraph where things come together and someone has laid something out and set up a need that I didn't know I needed and then presented the solution I suddenly crave, which is this show. And through whatever means they've set up, some ideas or visual clips or their own performance clips do I start to piece together what this could be if this person lived their best life doing it and all the things came together. And that is exciting. So there seems to be those things in common with like an application where, when we all get together and start reading them, there's ones where upon reading them out loud, other people like have excited, joyous noises, where it's just like, holy, it's just, I don't know, it's just a good idea, or you haven't seen it, or they wrote it right. And they might say they wrote it right is what I said. They suddenly presented a need that we didn't know we needed or didn't know something we had to have a solution to, and they were the solution. And we just had to give them a scholarship. I don't know. So it's just does that help? Matt, help. Matt, help me.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're saying it very well, Chris. I would say clarity is also something that I really look for in applications. Are you clear on your ideas on what your show is, on what you represent, on who you represent, and also the fact that if we give you the scholarship, you will also be representing the Hollywood Fringe as a scholarship show. This is as much as it is we are giving something to you or helping you something with this. You're also going to be elevated to a position where people are coming to see your show and they are seeing this is what the Hollywood Fringe felt that their funding and scholarship money was worthy to go to. Keep in mind other shows that did not get the scholarship, so you might come see your show as well. So make sure that you really are presenting yourself in the best way possible. Also, just be honest. I can't tell you. Every year there's always a few applicants that are trying to hide the fact that they actually don't qualify for the scholarship. Somehow we're not gonna find out. I don't know what their plan is. I don't know what their long-term strategy on this idea is. But every year we get a couple. Just be honest. Don't make it seem like you're trying to hide something, because then that makes me feel like I don't know. You know, I feel like there's a lot of unknowns with this, and that can be the difference between a show. Maybe the concept isn't even something that I'm particularly into, but it seems more clear. It's more straightforward. I understand what they're doing. The other show seems like a lot of unknowns and variables and things that are kind of in the dark on. I'm going to choose a show that I'm more clear on because I know what I'm putting my name on and what I'm saying I think should go forward. So just be as clear and concise as possible when you're doing these applications.
Awesome. Thank you both. I'm gonna shift as we start to talk about like, oh, I have the scholarship. What's kind of that next step process? Before I kind of close out questions, I'm looking at some, and Lois has been helping me look at the questions in the chat. And I just quickly want to address a couple that we've been seeing, which is like, if your play is a mix of two genres, how do you know which one to mark on the form? It is kind of that question where, regardless of scholarship or not, figuring out the genre of your show can be tricky, and it could be something you realize from the get-go, or you realize, well into the rehearsal process. You are able to to check that off or change it later. Obviously, like, it's really what is at the core of your story, and please feel free to change that as you go along, because you're like, oh, it's a comedy. However, like, figure out what best fits for you and what you think would speak of your show. What umbrella would you feel most comfortable with your show? And again, that umbrella could change. But so I want to go to this following question. I'm going to keep looking through the chat as these, because we may bring oh, and I don't think I brought this up, so that's on me. Maybe around like the 30-minute mark before this all closes down, we'll if there's any that I'm not pulling that hasn't been answered, we're gonna pull it from the audience or from everyone in the Zoom room right at about 8:30, I think. And yeah, we'll go back and like check what we haven't missed, because I want to get everyone's questions answered. But you have the application, you filled it out, and let's say you've been selected to receive the scholarship. One of the questions discusses marketing. and how it says like, yes, by receiving the scholarship award, you know, there already is a leg up there, because I know so many fringers, veteran fringers alike, are like, oh my God, I want to see this because this has been, you know, there's been a team, a committee who has selected this show and wants to see it succeed. Just like we want all the shows to succeed. But I want to know, because the question asks, what's the game plan? And it takes a second, because maybe not everyone knows what the fringe space, this fringe sphere is like on that marketing front, and is like, how do I address that question? So yeah, I mean, if we popcorn it over to Chris, if you want to take this one first, maybe that. And it's how do you or how did you market your show at Fringe? What are some like tips and pointers to how you approach that?
Okay, so first of all, I want to give you a little insight. This is my own opinion. This to me feels like a question we're asking you to know if you've even thought about the producing and marketing aspects of a show. Because I think that is a shitty question to ask, but I think that it's a shocker for someone if you haven't actually thought about it. And it's annoying. Wait, the question, sorry, the word is annoying. It's annoying as to even have to think about how am I going to market the what show? I don't know. Social media, you know, but you can't just say that. You have to give better answers. And immediately you're going to have to give specific, inventive answers for the POV of your show to make it different. Because you know that everyone's going to say Facebook, social media, the Hollywood Fringe community. No shit, obviously, you know. So we get to see if you have the capacity and know that you have to be a producer to think about those things, as well as give you the insight that we can't do it for you. We are going to help you better than everyone else. We're going to help in the best possible way, you know. But at the same time, we can't do it for you, so you better be thinking about it. And like you are proving you've thought about it at least once on the application in this moment for us right now.
How'd it go up there? We made it through.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Just double checking, but no, I think Ellen Lois, you guys are on it, so it's perfect. Going back into the flow. TL, do you want to tackle a little bit of this or add to this point as well? And Matthew, please, by all means.
Chris said it best. It's a bit of a litmus test to be like, are you on? Are you on? Are you on? Are you ready? Because the Fringe is a bit of a race. You know, a lot of people are trying to get your attention to go to shows. And so it's like, have you put some thought in it? For me, it's always like, are you really backing yourself? Are you really backing yourself and like showing up? Because it's one thing to write the script and then, you know, and the thing is, if you've received the scholarship, you do get a leg up. It's a little bit like being in the relay race and we've given you like 20 yards start, you know, out of the gate, you get an advantage because people will know that you've received the scholarship. We give you that backing. And then that question is really like, now you show us how you're going to show up and back yourself because we're giving you the leg up. What are you going to do to take it to the next level? Because we're looking for people who can be innovative in terms of ways to market and it's part of the whole game at the Fringe. It's not like, you know, this was a year somebody did their whole show in a living room. They dropped it. Remember that? I don't know what year that was. And everybody went to somebody's living room. Like you can think way out of the box because what's the Fringe is like break the rules. So you don't want to be doing the same thing everybody else is doing with social media and Instagram and all the things. You want to like think out of the box and we want to know if you're that kind of innovative people. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, going off what TL said, yeah, it is a litmus test. It is just seeing if you put some thought in. You don't need to come up with something crazy like, you know, we're gonna put some satellites into space, and then the people walking in Hollywood is gonna see they come to this show. Here's hold it up to the moon, and you'll get a QR code. Like you don't need to do all that. A lot of really great shows just had a very distinct font, maybe a good color scheme and some postcards, but they knew that they were going to be out there hustling. There's so many different things you can do to be creative with your marketing, but we're not going to judge you based off the creativity of your marketing. Because I don't, and I don't think most people do. I think we just want to see that you thought about it, that you know what you have to do in a general sense to get the show made, and that you know you have to market and advertise to get people at your show. And of course, your mentor will help you figure out the details of your specific show, of your stuff, to get it out there. But you know, it's again, it's just more that you're thinking about this, and maybe you haven't put enough thought, and this will help you kind of spur like, hey, where am I on this, and how do I make my show stand out in a crowd? Because like I said before, you're going to be competing against 300, 400 shows. How are you going to stand out and get people to come to it? So, you know, but don't be intimidated by that question. You don't need to give us the moon and the stars, just that some competent thoughts on it.
I don't know. I am kind of excited about lunar QRs. I know that that's probably not a good idea, and there's probably so many problems with it, but lunar QRs codes sound kind of fun. But I think all three of you kind of touched on maybe what the application's kind of discussing, and kind of what I think hearing all three of you talk about it has helped me refine really what these following questions and this question is all about, which is about those like producing skills and that producing muscle. Because you know, Fringe is for many people, they're bringing their first production to Fringe, or they're testing it, or like you said, they brought something else. But it's, again, you're relearning, or you're learning for the first time how to produce a show, you know, and that's kind of where the platform is anyone can bring something to Fringe and experience that moment. Um, I think something else that we've been kind of talking about is very much in like the individual applicant. I'm applying. I will be going through this process. Something that I want to discuss, which is also about that producing mindset, is the size of a production team. And I really just want to pick your brains on the shows you've worked on and what is the size, because that is a question in the application. And it is, again, another kind of question to be like, are you keeping in mind that, yes, this is your show and you are the primary producer? However, it's often, there's not that many shows where someone just does it all, because it's a lot. And I'd love if you could share your experiences on like, what have been your production teams look like? Like, how many people is it? Is it just you? Is it you and another person? Is it you and a team of 5? Like, what has that been like? Yeah.
Just to hop on that really quick, I think the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was telling people that a solo show doesn't have a big team. Um, if you want a good solo show, it's got to be more than yourself and your tech. You need someone who's going to be helping with the marketing. You need someone who's going to be directing it. Solo shows sometimes have sound effects, lighting effects. You might need someone for that. One of the shows that I mentored was a solo show, and we had the actress, the performer, a director, a lighting designer, a sound designer. Then we had someone who was helping her with marketing, because if it's just yourself going out there to a Fringe event, it's hard for people to hear about your show. She needed someone else out there when the days she couldn't be there. And then, of course, the tech for the venue. You know, that's a lot of people for a one-person show. I think the biggest production I've ever worked on, we had 9 cast members, including the tech and director, 5 crew. And that was even, actually, you could even say 6, because one of the cast members literally is just in one scene, and the rest of the play, this performer was doing stuff backstage, kind of as an assistant stagehand. There could be a lot of people at this production, so don't think just because you're doing a solo show that you just need 1 or 2 people. You're probably going to need several more. But again, you just have to keep that in mind. Not everyone's going to have to be at every rehearsal. You know, oftentimes you're going to work with people who are volunteering to be a part of this production. So you might have to be a little flexible on certain things. But yeah, I just have to say that, because a lot of people will hear their like solos, like, oh, it's just gonna be me and the director, and I'm like, cool, all right, well, good luck. I mean, it's what's happening in the show, you know, so just kind of keep it in mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when I went in 2023, when I was doing the show, I wasn't even in it. I was just the writer for my show, and I was able to focus on writing and then producing, and then I did like a little bit of the scenic design. But like I then gave it over to a team of like, I was trying to figure out the numbers. I think it was like a team of like 14 people when all was said and done. And I was like, well, thank God. It was an ensemble show, it wasn't a solo show. So there was a lot of like turning wheels and gears, and things were wild. But it is like, you know, it's those things that you have to be aware of when you decide to do a show. It's like, oh, what are the things you're gonna need? And you're so right, Matthew, about it being like a volunteer process, or sometimes there's a very small stipend that as a primary producer you give, but like it really is a labor of love, and that is kind of the thing that happens often. But Chris and TL, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Sorry, Chris. Cool. Yes. Okay, good, good. Well, I mean, it really takes a village. It really takes a village. Whether you're doing, you know, the Fringe and it's 400, you go to Edinburgh and it's 4,000. One of the things I saw there with people is like, some people brought, you know, like their whole family with them to Edinburgh, and then they had the support of the husband, and they were out in the street. And I was like, wow, you need a whole production team. You know, like I literally, I have somebody who comes backstage with me, and I have someone who feeds me chocolate after my show. Like I have someone who takes care of my inner child and goes, you did a good job. You're not going to die. Like and then, oh, here's another thing, a good plug for like office hours, you know, like you'll meet other buddies too, right? And like you can kind of trade with each other, and how, you know, start to market with other people who have similar themes, like Kevin, who's not here today, Kevin Neighbors, we had similar theme around, you know, being diverse and a diverse culture. So we co-market it with each other. You can help each other at the box office, but a lot of times you don't think about, you know, just the director, the producer, but you might need someone to do your graphic design. I saw people last year who were like trying to get their flyer designed like the week their show was opening. And I was like, so get your graphic designer, get your Q lab, get all of your pieces. And when you come to the office hours and some of the workshops that Hollywood Fringe will be teaching, all of that will be detailed and sort of give you the rails for that. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And the more support you can have around yourself, I coach people just on their emotional journey of doing their solo show so they can talk about it. Like, that one really sucked. I was really awesome. Now I really suck. Now I'm really awesome. And be like, you're okay, keep going. So, you know, we need each other, and the Fringe is a beautiful community. So find your people, make it happen, ask for help, and do have a team.
I literally have nothing else to add.
You're all good. Yeah, Matthew, TL, I think you just knocked it out of the park. It's great. The great responses. I do see a question here from Jasmine. Kind of what we're talking about is like, oh, what is the process of finding a team? Because I want to bring up like, yes, you should be aware of what your team may look like in the application, but you may not know who those team members are going to be. Obviously, that would be super helpful. But also, you know, you're engaging in a community at Fringe, and we brought up office hours. In those early office hours, coming by, meeting other artists, sometimes that's a great way. I know, yeah, in 2023, I just saw like there was a costume designer working on one show who came to office hours, being like, oh, I'm curious what this is. And at the end of that office hours, I talked to them at the end of that night, and they're like, oh, I guess I'm working on 3 other shows, and I couldn't be happier. But like, I'm like, yeah, that's how it works, just how it works sometimes. And same things with other, you know, other directors, designers, producers, writers, actors. That's another resource. I know that we can also shout out the Hollywood Fringe Facebook page, which has a bunch of members from past Fringes, current Fringe years. That's also super helpful as a resource. And then also, you know, producers have gone on to use like Backstage or some other like casting call type things for actors. But it's more about like knowing what your show is going to need and what the estimated production team size is. For example, if you know your show is going to be using projections, you will most likely either need a projection designer or a graphics designer to kind of help in assisting whatever you're needing. And that's something you should clock and write into the application. Of course, if you don't need projections, then you don't need that. Something that we talked about or mentioned at the very top of this panel was mentors. And so it's the conversation of you have your mentor, you have the application, you've applied, you've been chosen to be part of the scholarship cohort. Now, you receive a mentor. I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but has everyone here been a mentor in this process? Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Maybe just what is a scholarship mentor? I know it's changed over the years, but what are kind of like the tenets of what it means for you three to be a scholarship mentor?
Um, it's a little bit of a golden ticket. And I will say that a mentor obviously is going to be someone we're going to pair you with, and we do a sort of due diligence of trying to pair you with someone that we feel like is going to thematically and or whatnot work with you, your personhood, your project in such a way. And this person is your big brother, big sister, or whatever, if you will. Like that's very like that's like an archaic comment. It makes me feel like I'm my sorority again, like my big sister. Where they're going to be your like guardian angel if you need a question, if you're like this person who, I met this person, or should I do it here, or should I shave off 15 minutes, should be, it's like all those questions that keep you up at night, or you're like toggling between something. Like that's a great moment to have a mentor, but also like the bigger things. Now, we're not giving you like someone who's going to be at your beck and call the whole time to like answer every one of your questions, but we are giving you someone who wants to give up their time and their resources, which is their in-depth knowledge and experience, where you, through your own diligence, can give them as many of your questions, like with either like a meeting or an email, as you can, and listen as they give you the best possible advice that they can. And then you get to just you get to have someone to like run things by, which is nice when it's your first time doing something and it just seems scary. I think that, having said that, yeah, I'm gonna let people, and maybe I'll pick it back on, but like, yeah, that's what it is. And I think that it's probably the most, besides the money and like the actual act of calling yourself a scholarship winning show, which is a big ass deal. The mentor is like the thing that is a great program asset. I mean, there's a bunch, but I mean, it's a lot. Also, the friendships you'll make from the other scholarships. There's really this whole program is great for you. But yeah, like the mentor is something else that no one else has in the festival. And I'm sure a lot and people want that because the mentor themselves has relationships and networking opportunities, and they can kind of tell you, yeah, you can spend your money on this. You don't need that. If you thought about this, you need a box office person, and not just someone that you think that might show up like 5 minutes before or 10 minutes late. Like there are certain things that seem small but are so important, like I just said, like making sure that you can trust your box office person. That seems small, but come the day of, if you have no one to run box office, it becomes the most intense, annoying pain in the ass. And this feels like big sis energy or big brother energy, big person energy. We can just like give someone your little bit of your light and warmth to make their lives easier. And like in the grand trajectory of what this world is, like making someone else's life easier means at some point someone else will make your life easier. Which doesn't that sound great? I want a mentor.
Yeah, I'll jump in if that's cool. Yeah, I mean, the great thing about being a mentor, I think, is like you have a guide. It's like being a spelunker, someone who goes down into the cave and goes, I know how many monsters are in there. I've been down this cave before. I know how high the water is and what demons you're going to face, and then know some of the joys. So it's like for me, the role, it was an honor to be able to walk. I worked with a team of people who are all performance artists. It was great, interactive. It was amazing. But she was like a high school teacher poet who put this together with a bunch of like writers from her writing group, and it was just really beautiful. And she's like, I'm not an actor, but they committed, they showed up. And so a lot of my process was saying, this is what you can expect. Feeling overwhelmed is a little normal. Yes, the guidebook is coming up. Let's make sure you hit those marks. You want to get to the office because that's where you're going to meet other people and you're not going to be alone. So it was a little bit like, it's like standing behind the bicycle with the training wheels and you push them and go. It's a little bit like that. It was good. It's good times. you know, and it's a gift, and it was nice to be able to give it back because someone did that for me when I was a scholarship recipient, kind of lay down the land of what to expect and how to map it out, because part of the juggle of HFF or Hollywood Fringe Festivals, wearing the multiple hats, being the artist, being the producer, being the promoter, it can feel like a lot. So if you can help your person to map it out and know what to expect, then they don't feel so alone on the journey. And then you get to feel real smart telling people what to do. You dog, like, go do your flyers.
I mean, yeah, for me, the mentor experience of getting a mentor, they've summed it up so well. I don't want to echo too much of what they've already said, but just like it's someone there who can, one, hold you accountable to your deadlines, make sure you know what you have to do, get everything done. Someone who is not necessarily your friend, but someone who will be friendly with you as you get things done, as you navigate something that can be a little intimidating, especially your first time. I've worked with people with different levels of experience in the theater world, and you just kind of figure out and you come down and you work and communicate together to figure out what's the best plan. But yeah, I love mentoring personally. Personally, I love it. It's really, really thrilling for me. It's really fulfilling for me. And the people I've helped and worked with, you know, I've kept up with as they've taken their shows or new shows or anywhere else, whether it's Fringe or elsewhere. But it's, yeah, it's just someone who's going to have your back. And that's so freaking important to have at the Fringe. Like, you know, this is not a super hyper competitive Fringe, I would say. You know, maybe I've been shielded against something. I don't know about that, but I would say in a general sense, we're all rooting for each other. But it's nice to have someone who can just help you with the logistical and kind of those in between moments where you're not quite sure what you need to do. Make sure it all gets completed on time.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to share something about, because you guys are all been talking about it, about Fringe mentors, and my Fringe mentor was Stephen Blask. I'm gonna shout him out because he's amazing. He's a sweetheart. But something that you've all kind of been talking about, is that, like, yes, your mentor will keep you up on those deadlines, those reminders, key things that you need to know about, but also, and something I don't think I explicitly stated, but I probably should. Your Fringe, the mentor is someone who has done Fringe, who knows Fringe. And so, you know, having that person to talk to, and like that to me was the biggest thing, actually, just having someone to talk to be like, oh, I did this and this and this week, because Steven and I would check in weekly, either at office hours or texting or email. I think one time I sent him an email of a cast photo, which is very cute. I'll have to find that. But for my own, just to see it, because it was cute. But it's just like someone that will like reassure you that things are fine. You know, that's also a big part of it. It's like, because some of it for many of us, it will be like it's an unknown process, you know, because it's a first time producer coming to the Fringe Festival. So having that reassurance to be like, yes, you're on track, or oh, hey, catch that one other thing that you need to do. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think TL, you brought it up that or maybe it was Chris. My apologies if I forget who brought it up, but it was about the Fringe group itself and the friendships that are kind of made along the way, and also like talking about box office and needing someone for your box office. It's kind of this thing where I remember from my year, I was like, oh, I'll run your box office, and I mean, well, they offered to run mine, and I, you know, reciprocated that offer, and then there's still people that I talk to this day, because we were all in this thing for one summer, and again, I still work in Los Angeles. Many of those from my cohort from my year still work in LA, and I get to see them at like cabarets or variety shows that we go to that are happening from another friend that we both met. Or some of them are in New York now, and I can be like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like, that's so, like, it's an experience you've all gone through together, and you've all like, it's the marathon. It's finishing the marathon, and you're like, we did it. This is incredible. Which kind of puts me in that shift of gears. And TL, I think this question is, I would love to hear from you about this. Which was after going through the scholarship program, what did you gain from the scholarship program? Like, what was either as a producer, as an artist, as an individual, like personally. I know I can talk hours about like how much I loved it, but I really wanted to hear from you about what you gained from the program.
Okay, I'm gonna go somewhere else for a minute. Just that. So I just got a commercial agent. I don't usually do all that stuff. I do my own art. And and like I spent most of my call with one person on the call, one agent going, well, how will you audition? Well, we have to tell everybody that you're deaf, like being very uncomfortable with my being diverse. And the other one kept saying, oh, it's not like that anymore. We don't use the word handicap. So one person was super aware and the other one was like old school, and I had both in the room. So anyway, I don't know, that popped into my mind to share because I think what it really had me, I mean, I knew this, but it made me feel proud of being diverse. Like, I know that when I put it on the top of the pile, now it's like, it's almost like a benefit or an advantage in a way, because people want the diverse, unique stories. I know that mine will rise to the top because my voice needs to be heard because it's unique, because there aren't many people doing it. Or, so I'd say my takeaway was, it was great to be amongst a collective of artists who were diverse and who were standing in the power of being diverse and telling stories about it, and being backed by an organization who understands the value of shining a spotlight on those stories who didn't have an opportunity to tell those stories years ago. Amen.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was a really good answer, TL. Lois jokes that usually once in a panel she tears up. Well, I guess it's my turn now. Um, because yeah, I'll just share. Yeah, when I did it in 2023, I was very scared about bringing a bilingual show, and also bringing a show that was hyper focused on being Latine, being half Mexican, half Salvadorian, and then also dealing with like the Spanish dialects. That when I presented it to an audience, I'm thrilled. I mean, there's so much you get carried away with that when you're like, oh right, people are gonna see this. That hit me like preview night, and I was like, oh my God, I wonder what's gonna happen. I wonder what's going to be the reception, or I wonder just so many questions. And it was just about you start to read the reviews and you're like, oh cool, like this was something that someone took out of it, and beyond that, it was something that I needed for myself to see on stage, and there was so much reward in that, which I think it wasn't an immediate response, because so much of the fear was like, oh, what is everyone else gonna say? And then I think it must have been my stage manager, who's a good friend of mine, but was eventually like, Roddy, what do you think about this experience? How do you feel? And I had and then we just sat down. I think it was like after a show, we just got lunch and we were just talking about it. And you just brought all those memories back. Thanks, TL. It was very sweet. It was very nice. I do see a question in the chat. Thank you, Lois, about accessibility at the festival and about venues. And there's a great way to tackle this, especially when you're looking to find what venue works for you. Not all of them are accessible. Some may require that you have to get up 2 flights of stairs to get to them. You are able to on the hollywoodfringe.org/venues page. You'll see all of the venues registered. They're obviously still registering right now as we haven't fully opened yet, but they should be getting all their information in soon. You'll be able to click the toggle to say which ones are accessible, and which ones just don't have that built into their space. Oh, Lois just dropped it in. Awesome. I think I got it right. I might have messed up if it's a backslash or a forward slash, but Lois dropped it in, so perfect. And then yes, that's something else. I'm just trying to read the rest of this question to make sure I'm addressing it properly. Yeah, and then we're always working on programs and what else to do to create further accessibility in the festival. But yeah, it's our continued work, and I believe, well, we're gonna keep working. I have some things to work on the back end, but yes, things are happening. Sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked, but I think we're gonna really shift in about 10-15 minutes to audience questions, because I believe there may have been some that I haven't fully addressed. I do want to ask these kind of closing thoughts, maybe, which we've all kind of been touching on anyway. So maybe it's just like, again, bringing to the top what we really want to hammer in. Um, but what would you say to applicants who are unsure of applying, or maybe they're having cold feet? Maybe that's the better way of saying it. You know, what's that? What's that? Yes, that's the question. And if Chris, you want to tackle that one? And we'll just go in a circle.
Sounds great. Well, first of all, listen, this is a diversity scholarship. So I think that one thing is, TL, we love you so much. And we totally get that, like, filling out this application is a great exercise, right? For any person wanting to do the Hollywood Fringe, because it's basically asking you, like, why, but there's some questions you might not be getting for you, whatever. It might be a little confusing. So I get that. But at the same time, it's like, if you are a marginalized, underrepresented voice, and if you alone can tell your story. You're not telling someone else's story, you're telling your story, you're telling a story that you have access to, that you have a personal relationship with, because it's in fact your story. You're not telling the story of the Peruvian goddess that you studied, and your, God bless, Italian. It's like I cannot, you get crazy applications. So if I can trust that you are someone who has a story that we don't get to see a lot because of the ways in which politically it's worked out for your kind in this world, this is what the scholarship is for. So then you give a project that we feel like maybe doesn't like speak to this whole specific thing, like whatever your, like what yours. It's like a story that comes from a voice that we don't hear that much. It doesn't have to be about the pain and struggle of such a voice, but it's like, we want to hear this voice. We're going to amplify this voice because we feel like this voice has a point of view that we don't get to see. We want to hear this voice express their own narrative, their own point of view, their own artistry through a theater project. So then the goal then comes, and totally forgot the question, by the way, that isn't completely obvious. But I think it's just like tips and tricks. But it's like, you do have to write a good application. You do have to be a good writer. You do have to make it so that it makes sense and it sells you and your project to a bunch of people who do not know you, or I would just have you assume do not know you. Now, the good news is this only, again, it's like we've said, the application and the success of a good application only feeds into the success of a good Hollywood Fringe show. It crystallizes the log line, the importance of what you're trying to do, who you're going to involve, how you're going to market it. Those are the questions we're asking you on this application that you have to already be thinking of, no matter if you're diverse at all, literally if you're just doing a show at Hollywood Fringe. And so in that way, everyone for their own exercise at the Hollywood Fringe should do the application, but only those who truly think it's good for them send it in, because we don't have a lot of fucking time in our lives to read all your goddamn applications that make no sense. But then here we are, you've done this, and then like you have what feels like a good blueprint of how to address the run of this project for specifically, which is the Hollywood Fringe Theater Festival, which for the majority of us represents something in our backyard. We're already there. We might be in our own pockets of community of artists, right? You take improv at UCB, you're taking the Groundlings, you do stuff at the Art of Acting Studio, so whatever it is, the PAC, the Clubhouse, whatever maybe you went to Cal Arts. There's so many different like communities that you come from, and the Hollywood Fringe is one. And so the impact of mining your community to get people on board that share a vision that can help you with your project, or at least come to your project, or at least share your project on social media, you getting to the Fringe, putting up something and learning how to produce, as well as a bunch of other skills like marketing and like, who knows, maybe you become like a Canva pro. I mean, the things that you will learn just for yourself along the way as a theater artist and as a human is invaluable. The application is like this weird starting project of this journey, no matter where it goes. Now, we everything we're talking about is like for the application, but at the same time, all of this like about the box office and about going to office hours, like everyone can go to that, right? Like Hollywood Fringe itself, like this is the summer camp for theater artists, and you put in your beautiful soul and you get out who knows, like that's what it is. You're gonna find crazy people and great people, and nutty people and wild people, and lovely people and people, you know? It's so that's yeah, everything is everything. Everything is a part of something. Nothing is about to be perfect. It never will be. Fringe in itself is messy and somewhat, but at the same time, it's about your soul or about your intention. People see through the muck. In my last, okay, we have more questions. Should I give one more thing or no? My last thing is it's as important to be able to share your energy and to be able to be and hold space for someone else at this festival as much as it is for you to show and shine. So this becomes like as much as going to office hours and truthfully holding your tongue as someone talks about their show without like trying to get a postcard in their hand as much as humanly possible. As much as you can lean into letting go of like hyper controlling, but allowing and not putting too much expectations, but just trusting is a lot of the process. And I think that that even goes in the application, like sincerity and authenticity is what I think is the palpable feelings in the fringe space the most. So, babes, that's a lot. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. I'm no more talking until the questions from me. Everyone else gets to talk now.
Yeah, you're all good, Chris. I'm gonna pass it over to TL and Matthew if you want to add to that about what was the question?
Yeah,
Oh,
what is the question?
Why do people who are nervous about
Nervous.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Here's what I say to everybody. If I don't know, if you're nervous, maybe it's because you have something important to say. That's right. Usually if there's terror, there's something going on in the background. Yeah, I think Chris said it great. So I'm not gonna say too much more. Just, I like what you said about showing up. Just being a part of the community and being on the journey of it is really important. And that means being in the audience and supporting others. Just being a part of a whole community of people it's beautiful. And if you feel called to fill out the scholarship, do it with some intentionality. And when we see shows, that's what I want to say. When we see shows on stage, we know we can tell when someone's being authentic and honest in their art. And we want that kind of level of authenticity and honesty in your application as well. It starts there and then carries over into your show, right?
yeah, that's super well said. Look, I would consider doing the Hollywood Fringe show to be in the top 3 best decisions I made in my adult life. I really think it was one of the best things I ever did. Some of the friends that I've made, the experience I've gotten, the career, the boost to my career on like a completely non-altruistic level. This helped me get seen. This helped me initially get an agent. It's helped me get into other productions now. But on a personal, just like the vibe, the community that's been built by doing this has made it worth everything. Any of the days where it's doubtful or I'm running around LA looking for a 1940s accurate phone, all those things are totally freaking worth it. So I would say if you feel like you even feel like a little bit like I think I can do this, do it. There's going to be some things that go wrong. You're going to make some mistakes. Of course, everyone does that no matter what happens. But it's going to be worth it in the long run. And, you might get some lifelong friendships out of it along the way. So I just encourage you to give it a shot. There's so much to gain and really not much to lose. So, put the courageous face on about this and give it a shot. And if you don't get the scholarship, then you're possibly right back to where you started anyway. So no harm, no foul. So I say go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that like you're saying, Matthew, just going for it, and then also TL and Chris with, oh, I mean, all three of you mentioned it too, of like intentionality, authenticity, and specificity. I think those are three really good um just words to keep in mind when filling out the application, when creating your fringe show in general. Actually, I think you've all been talking about like just fill it out as a self practice, whether or not you apply. Yeah. I mean it's a good, like, you'll know what it is, and if you don't qualify for the scholarship, don't submit, but keep those questions and, like, know what you're talking about, know what your show is. It's a great way this early in our fringe journey, in this fringe season, to get those questions answered. I do wanna, and we're about to throw to audience questions in a moment, but I know that Ellen and Lois have just been doing such an amazing job in the chat that I just want to bring up again about accessibility, and when it comes to fringe panels such as this, and our in-person panels, our in-person workshops, town halls, fringe events, they're all held in wheelchair accessible locations, venues. However, it becomes up to the venue and the artist in that regard when you decide to put up your show in a specific space. I'm trying to find, because it was here about interpreters, and at our events and our, like, hosted workshops and things like I've been talking about, we're able to offer interpreters within, like, I believe it's 72 hours in advance, so that we're able to provide that service, like opening and awards nights. And then however, for we don't currently provide interpreters for shows specific, but I mean, that would be ideal. That would be incredible to offer, like, interpreted nights of X, Y, and Z performance. But yes.
But
Oh yes, go for it, Teal.
many people do. Many people do in the last few years.
Yes.
They will book interpreters to just maybe do 1 or 2 shows if they don't have the budget for everything. So
Yeah.
we've seen an increase of interpreter access, like one night is an ASL show, and they promote that. So that is increasing for sure.
Oh, yes, actually, yes, TL, thank you, because that's also, I believe, in the flag system, Lois, where if you're looking for interpreted nights, because a whole run may not be, but for specific showings, I believe that's something you can filter out as an audience member when you're going to go see shows. Is that, Lois is nodding yes, so I
Yes,
hopefully haven't butchered it, yeah?
No, you're so good. Yes, we have ASL interpreted show flags so that the audience can search those shows in particular. We also have resources available. Like a goal of ours, and TL knows, is that we would have a scholarship, and we're working on that to provide ASL interpretation for more shows. But in the meantime, we do offer resources in our participant packet that goes live on February 1st to give you just that education and those resources to find interpreters if that's something you were able to do for your show.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and then, yeah, because Lois, you touched on it, but like that packet, which when it's going to come out, will have resources, and also extending it to, like, graphic designers. If you're like, oh, I don't know how to design this, and I'm already at full capacity with producing, or other services like videographers, photographers, and I mean, we're currently figuring out what that roster looks like, but it's going to be a good packet, and I'm excited for it. And I think, yeah, I'm gonna. If unless I missed something in the chat, but please, anyone that has any questions, bring them into the chat, and I absolutely want to get them answered.
Did we get this one? Wait, I think I see one. Okay, first of all, Jasmine, as a writer of a play, what is the process of finding an ensemble team? I mean, that's, God bless, that's not okay. I would say if you want Hollywood Fringe people, I would go to the office hours and like post in the Hollywood Fringe groups. That'd be the best way to find them, or just, stalk people online. But I would say, honestly, look into your own your own social networks, who you've either, like, worked with, or if you just moved here and you're playwright and you need to find people, I would start going to see theater around LA, and you like theater, go up to the director and tell them, like, that's how you network. But the Fringe itself, as an entity, does no dating. I'm sorry, matchmaking, if you will. There's no matchmaking amongst that we can do. I also there's this one that was like, can you apply for something with 2 shows in one night? And it's possible to present, it's from Larissa. Is it possible to present a project of 2 performances, 2 different plays, because involved the same team? Okay, I'm from El Salvador. Both plays are in Spanish. I'm in LA studying a conservatory, and it's possible to bring people in and apply, understanding that if I have to solve it with all the other resources and present in the applicant. This is what I know is a little confusing, my love, and this is it. If it's one performance, if it's a performance of two shows, right? So let's just say it was a 2-1-X. And it was the same team doing it, and the performance is 2-1-Acts in one performance, then yes, I'm assuming they have a thematic connection of some kind that you can give the application of why you decided to do these two together. Now, if your show is one performance and there's a whole other show, a different performance, and you just happen to know each other, then no, my loves, those are two different projects. The most important thing is that no one has produced you cannot have produced a Hollywood Fringe before. So if you both have different projects, or let's just say you both are on one team and you're both doing two different projects and none of you have ever submitted before, I would go ahead, two different projects, do two different applications. Now, if I'm saying anything wrong with Rod, am I right when I'm saying that? Like that makes sense of what I'm saying. One performance, one application. Who knows what happens in that performance? Two pieces, one piece. It's one time. What I'm asking is, it's one time at a theater. It's a 7:30 show. If it's two pieces happening at 7:30, that's one project. If you have two different times, that's two different projects. God, I hope that's clear.
Yeah, I'll add to that because I think Chris, you are answering the question great, because if it's like a double billing situation where there is that thematic tie-in or it's relevant, or you are just the primary producer for both of these 1-acts, that can work. However, let's say it's you and a friend and you're producing separate shows and you want to package that one, it may be that you should just like apply separately. Your two individual primary producers get the scholarship. It'd be great. But yeah, I think there's that leeway on like, oh, is it a double header? Is it two 30-minute shows that thematically work? Or is it that, oh no, I have a creative partner here and we're both producing shows, in which case like just produce both sign up to the application and see how that also carries out. I will also add that your questions don't have to like end here. Please, I think Ellen and Lois have already been dropping it in the chats, but the support email, support@hollywoodfringe.org. Ellen, Lois, and I were always on there trying to answer artist questions. And then also something that we've been doing and rolling out is artist one-on-ones that we schedule. I think it's about 20 minutes with myself, with the artist services manager, where I answer your questions. I give you some helpful links. I've been answering them. I think we started 2 weeks ago, something like that. And then, we've been booking out till December. Right now it's Tuesdays. I know in January we're going to probably add some more that just go beyond Tuesdays. But they've been pretty popular and super helpful. And like, yeah, just come in if you got questions and it's only going to take 10 minutes, or you want to do it via email. Either one works. And then it's helpful to know these things. So yes, let me check back at the bottom of the chat. Yes, thank you, Lois. Lois just dropped it in. Oh, and shouting out office hours, because so you're trying to find that community. You're like, oh, I'm new to the Los Angeles Hollywood theater scene, and yes, there's no, well, actually, there's some shows running tomorrow, but you could also come by and stop by office hours and meet some people who have done Fringe before, and also people that you may ask them like, oh, hey, I'm looking for a director, and they may say, well, I'm a director, or they may say like, oh my God, let me introduce you to X, Y, and Z. They did Fringe 2 years ago. They do Fringe every year. They do Fringe however so often. Or they're just like theater artists in Los Angeles. That's also super helpful. And I can't think of anyone that would not want to help in that regard. Wouldn't want to put you in connection with someone that could help you on your show journey. Whether that's at the office hours or the Facebook group for that matter. And I know that we've talked about one of the official Facebook group pages, but I do know that there are some other Fringe artist run pages as well that pop up. And I think that they'll be available in the packet as well. And Lois, is the 2024 packet still up?
It is.
Okay, great. Okay, then I can absolutely plug in that resource, because while we will be updating the packet, the 2024 version, the version that just happened this past year, is still up and available and still has a lot of super helpful resources. I think it's about maybe a 60-50 pager, something like that. Don't worry, it's digestible for the most part. We're working on breaking it down right now, to make it easier to absorb all that information. But it's like blocked out into sections. I mean, Lois, I think you've done a really good job on it. So definitely check it out. That's something that will give you an insight to what 2025 is going to look like. And then I bring this up, this next thing, because I just had an artist sessions where it was brought up. I actually recommend, as a producer side, getting your head into what is Fringe, how does it work? Um, the annual report that we kind of did about we released about a month ago, maybe now. But it shows you like tradition, like how many shows do people produce on average, like how many performances run, and also what's the cast size, what are the genres, like anything that you want to learn about stats about the festival from last year, that you would find helpful as a producer for this year, or someone who doesn't know about Fringe yet, as well. Definitely take a look in that. I think that Lois, yeah, Lois is dropping in the links right now. Um, yeah, I don't know. If we have any other questions? But yeah, I know I'm just like throwing out resources now because I'm like, this is the part where we explore what Fringe has to offer and what resources we've made available. Let me look at my question sheet while, yeah, I mean, the final question I have here is something we've kind of already discussed. So I'm kind of just gonna, if there's any questions people have in the Zoom chat, please drop them in. But was about like advice to prospective applicants and words of encouragement. I feel like we've kind of tackled both, especially advice being like a large part of this. But I would love to, I don't know, if we could like, what is that word of encouragement, that sentence of encouragement, um, from the three of you that I would love to hear? Well, what's the thing? Because I mean, I think the whole panel's been advice and encouragement, but I'm also like, what's the little bow on the gift that you have all brought to the table? And I'm gonna maybe popcorn it over to Matthew.
Gosh, okay, a word of encouragement. Bowen. I would just say, do not be intimidated by this process. Um, if you're here on this Zoom call, you've already taken a major step in preparation to start getting ready for this. You're ahead of the pack. Don't um, don't get anxious about this, and don't take a no from us if we decide not to move forward your project as a rejection of your idea, of your play, of that it's not a good enough idea, that what you want to say about yourself or perhaps a community is not important to us. This is a very, very tough decision. We have limited resources. There are always shows that we really want to give funds to that we don't give it to, just for different reasons that are outside of your control. So don't take this as a repudiation if we don't choose you. I encourage everyone to find a way to get their show done, one way or the other, whether you're getting help with us or not. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's further down the line. Who knows? And then if you are chosen, uh, it's a really cool thing, but it does not mean automatic success. It does not mean everything's going to change. And what's great about that is that this is just a tool. It's just a little bit of help. And so don't put so much pressure onto this that it overwhelms you. This is just one aspect, one part of possibly a road to success. Your ideas are valid. You've worked hard. You will have success if you strive for it, whether it's through the scholarship fund, through your own means, whatever. This is not the end all be all of anything, one way or the other. And anyone who's on this call, I really believe in you. I know you can do it. I've seen it happen. You're going to make something great. And I'm super, super proud to be part of this community. So thanks for spending some time with us and letting us talk to you. I'm super excited to see what people bring in this year.
Chris, TL, if you want to add to that, or if you think Matthew just knocked it out of the park, because that's also true and fine. Please.
I do love what you said. I'm just gonna say, uh, you definitely not gonna make money, right? Doing this. So, so you're not gonna make money. So if you're like, oh, I really want to do it, but will I make money? I don't know. And that's like what you're going back and forth. You're like, I would just say don't, don't do it. But I would say that if you have this horrible like voice that tells you that you need to go and make people feel whatever it is. For me, I have like a fucked up need to make people happy. And so I want so badly to do shows where I like make people really like joyous or laughy or whatever, like laughing, I guess is the word, not laughy, not being it. So whatever, I have this calling, right? Like I have a calling to do these things. I wish I didn't. It would be a lot easier. It's harder to have this calling than it is to do the Hollywood Fringe Festival. So because I have this calling, the Hollywood Fringe Festival is the solution for me to do the thing I get called to do. And it annoys me all the time, and I wish I didn't. But if you are like me, where you get an incessant need to make someone feel something in a dark room, then this is a great opportunity for you to share your soul, your light. And I think if you need a word of encouragement from there, I would say this is the time when we owe each other our light. It's a great time to share it. Like the warmth, the light, the human experience, the mirror, your soul, your vulnerability. People are in need because of everything. So that's why you should do it. But you shouldn't do it if you need to make money. I'm done. Thank you all.
Wow. I mean, that's beautifully said. I will just say, if you're here on this call, it's likely because you know you have a story to tell. So if you're here, it's evidence that you're in the right place. You don't need a scholarship to tell that story. Anytime you stand on a stage and you make the decision to tell the story, that's the win, that's a success. If you get the scholarship, great. We hope to see you with the application form. And yes, be a part of the creation. We're artists, we have power, we're the first responders. We get to show the world what's possible. So I look forward to seeing what you bring.
Yeah. Thank you all three so much. Yeah, God, thank you all three so much. What is the word? What is it called? Oh, right. This is just, I think this panel, I mean, for me, it is personal, just speaking on behalf of me. Hearing the three of you is just very empowering, about like myself, about the festival, about what we're gonna see, about theater. I just feel great now. Had a good cry, laughed. I mean, I'm excited. I do wanna shout out one more helpful link. I think it actually might be three. Sorry, Lois. That is about specifically the scholarship, because we said the email, the artist one-on-ones, those are for everyone at large. There are going to be three scholarship FAQ like Zoom rooms throughout the course. I believe the first one is December 10th, and then I believe the other two are in January, with a reminder that the scholarship closes January 21st. Those like little FAQ sessions are going to be moments where you're going to be able to come in to a Zoom room, pop in, ask your questions to myself, to applicants, or sorry, to artists who have been in the scholarship process, who have done it, who performed at Fringe as a scholarship winner. Yeah, that's gonna be super helpful, and we've kind of spaced it out so that way, like, if you are filling out the application right now and you have questions, come to December 10th's FAQ, ask that question. You want to come later in January, ask that question then too. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Okay, Lois, perfect. Lois, just include that link. And then I don't know if I did this. I don't know if I said the blurb for the scholarship, which is what we're talking about. So I think I'm gonna close this out by reading what the scholarship is, because I maybe didn't read that. But if you've heard it before, then great. But the Hollywood Fringe Scholarship is awarded to first-time Hollywood Fringe producers who identify as one of the following: BIPOC, which includes Black, Indigenous, and people of color; disabled, D-deaf, and/or blind; Spanish language productions and other non-English productions are encouraged to apply. I don't think I said that from the beginning. And so I'm just putting it into the space now, and of course it's going to be in all of our, it's on the application, but I just wanted to put that into space before we close this out. But again, Chris, TL, Matthew, thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Lois, for dropping that in. But truly, like, the scholarship program means a lot to me, not only having personally benefited from it, but like as just a service offered by the Fringe, as an opportunity offered by the Fringe, and for, you know, for your time that you've brought in today, for the time that you've done in the past as like committee members, as all that you do, because there's so much that you guys do for the festival, and I'm just very grateful. But I don't know, Ellen, Lois, I think we've wrapped up, right? Yeah? Okay, cool. Brilliant. So yeah, this will be on YouTube. This will be re-uploaded. So if you weren't here, or if you had to leave really early, no worries. It's available on Hollywood Fringe YouTube, or I believe on the Facebook. I think we went Facebook Live, so it's there too now. No, we did not. We did not go Facebook Live, but it's going to be on YouTube. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, everyone. I think I'm going to close out the Zoom. Is that what happens here? I'm terrible at ending Zoom meetings.